A while back, some friends of mine made a series of videos called Horror MILFs, in which they described and ranked several movie monsters that they considered sexually attractive. I highly recommend viewing that first, not only because it's going to provide much needed context to my response, but also it's pretty funny. It's Halloween, and what better way to celebrate the spirit of the spooky season than with a tier list? Alright, here we have our tier list setup. We have 5 tiers, each with 2 spaces, enough to accommodate the 8 original monsters talked about in the series, as well as 2 of my own additions. I also want to point out right here at the beginning that, of course, this is just my opinion, completely subjective, and if you disagree, please leave a comment down below and tell me what I got wrong. We're going to start out with Colette's first pick of Count Orlok from Nosferatu.
Alright, starting off with one of the sexiest grandpas in the game.
Alright, are we all ready to vote? You want more to say?
Do you have more to say?
I don't want to offend anybody else.
No.
I would put a bag on his face, okay?
It is honestly baffling that Colette would choose the ugliest depiction of vampires ever to be put to the screen. You have a wide breadth of sexy vampires to choose from, and you deliberately go with a Jewish caricature that's meant to compare them to rats and vermin? No. I completely disagree with Colette's assertion that this creature is in any way a sexy grandpa or a silver fox, which is why he belongs all the way at the bottom in the D tier. Moving on to Colette's second pick, Venom from Venom.
Eyes, lungs, pancreas. So many snacks, so little time.
Colette, he crushed a cop car.
Strong enough to crush a cop car, gentle enough to be a decent lover.
He's gonna break my hips.
Now with Venom, I do think that we are moving in the right direction, but I still disagree with Colette's claim that you would get to have both Venom and Eddie Brock as a boyfriend, because really we're not adjudicating the person who has been taken over by the monster, we're adjudicating the monster. And in this case, Venom is much too slimy. He's covered in a greasy black tar goop, and those teeth are just too much to handle. And that tongue is just flat out dangerous, which is why I'm going to put him in the C tier. Alright, moving on, we're going to take a look at Dylan's first pick of Pinhead from Hellraiser.
Demons and sex.
I am the way. Jesus Christ. Not quite. Explorers.
Now for Pinhead, would it be a problem if he had just 1 or 2 of those piercing things and they were sticking out of the side of his head or the back of his head? No, it wouldn't be a problem, but the fact is, he's got them all over his face, and especially in the front, so if you're going to want any action from that direction, just forget about it. Aside from the bloody nipple clamps, we're definitely going in the right direction and have to give him points for good use of leather, but seriously, he needs to go outside and get some sun before I can consider him attractive. I can see why this was Dylan's pick, which is why I'm putting him right next to Venom in the C tier. Moving on to Dylan's second pick of the Blue Fangs from Castlevania.
The sun is already down.
God is in all his churches.
Your God's love is not unconditional. He does not love us, and he does not love you.
I have done his bidding.
Let me kiss you.
Now with the Blue Fangs, you see a lot of Venom's problems cropping up again. The teeth, I like that they glow, but they are much too big. Same thing with the eyes, like that they glow, but there are just too many of them. Let's stick to 1 pair maximum. The other interesting contradiction that this monster has is the fact that he is hairy yet thin. Thin, of course, this being Dylan's pick. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if you're going to be hairy, it would help to have a little extra meat on your bones, which the Blue Fangs clearly do not have. I am putting the Blue Fangs in the B tier, B for blue. Moving on to Michaela's first pick of Jennifer from Jennifer's Body.
I am still socially relevant.
And when you didn't need laxatives to stay skinny.
I am going to eat your soul and shit it out, Mickey!
Thought you only murdered boys.
I go both ways.
I just realized something. How old is she? Oh no! Give me the pen.
Oh no, oh god.
Now what you have here really is a shame, because you had a candidate who was almost perfect, almost a perfect pick, but she is, of course, underage. Now you could say, oh, just imagine if she was 18, rate her as you would if she was 18, but honestly, this obsession with barely legal is just uncomfortable at best. So she had to be at least 21, she's nowhere close, so she unfortunately goes into the D tier. Up next is Michaela's second pick of Beast from Beauty and the Beast.
I would like to prelude this by saying that I do not think I'm a furry.
Mi avete visto per quello che sono. Ditemi ancora che vi ripugno. Ditemelo.
As a side comment, if you think the Beast is more attractive as a human, you are entitled to your wrong opinion.
Now what you see popping up here again is another one of Colette's issues. This time it's with picking the wrong interpretation of the character. The 1991 version is just clearly superior in almost every way. This version, the hair is just off, he's got these giant, disgusting horns coming out of his head. The one thing that they do fix is the teeth, but that's pretty much all he has going for him. I would actually argue that the best depiction you could pick specifically for this exercise is the 1946 French black and white version. See, the Beast as a character is always very outwardly aggressive, trying to put on a show, but the 1946 French version really delves into his more feminine side. I mean, you see him, he's wearing this long black flowing, it's almost like a gown. He's got a giant Victorian style headdress cape thing going on, and we respect a man who can really tap into his feminine side and not be ashamed. And so that's why this depiction in almost any other case would automatically be an S, but for this version we're going to have to put him in A. Moving on to Shelby's first pick of the creature from The Shape of Water.
You're not gonna play us the shower sex scene?
Do you guys want to see the shower sex scene?
They're so passionate about each other that they don't care that this apartment is getting destroyed.
Selfish. Romantic. But selfish.
I really do think that this was the best pick of the night, where Colette has to hypothesize on whether or not Venom would be a sensitive lover. We can just look directly to the text and see that in this case, yes, it would be true. The one problem that I could see is possibly the fact that he needs to be submerged in salt water, which may not prove very pleasant, and you gotta dock some points because he ate that cat, and that's not cool. But still, even with that taken into account, this is an obvious S. Moving on to Shelby's next pick of Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
He is also made up of many vines, and while vines are not normally seen as something to be sexually excited about, they are reminiscent of tentacles, and we all know that tentacle porn is a very real thing.
So it was a concern with the amphibian man. How did they have sex? And that has an explanation in movie.
Vines can go in holes.
Now, Audrey 2 was probably the hardest to place on this list, being that she is the least humanoid of the bunch. Still, you do see a lot in common with her and the other lower tier monsters. I mean, you look at the giant teeth, not a fan of that. I mean, you have the giant viney tentacle things similar to Venom's tongue, don't want to be involved with that. And I do think you are going to see some kind of a mucousy sap similar to Venom's slime. All in all, this is going to put her in the B tier because she's still better looking than Pinhead. Now it's time to get into the exciting new additions, and here are my picks, starting with the Owl Woman from Under the Silver Lake.
The Owl's Kiss is a lost legend of folklore, just as terrifying as the Wolfman or Frankenstein's monster. She is a woman who arrives in the night through windows and locked doors, naked except for her mask of taxidermied owl skin. She seduces men and women alike, killing them in their sleep. This beautiful specter is responsible for dozens of deaths within the Los Angeles basin, though she has yet to be mentioned by mainstream media. Theories abound as to her motives. It is the unlucky soul who finds himself the recipient of an owl's kiss.
I think the Owl Woman is a perfect addition to this list. She's sexy, she's seductive, and she's part of this huge conspiracy, so if she finds you, you know that in the grand scheme of things, you're probably important. I mean, the one downside I could possibly see is that maybe you could get into the semantics and argue that she's not exactly a monster and should be characterized instead as like a serial killer, but I would argue that even if they aren't entirely spelled out, she clearly does have some kind of supernatural abilities, which is why I'm going to put her in the S tier. Moving on, my final pick and the final monster of this tier list is going to be The Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing.
Let's go, Bennings. I gotta get some sleep. It isn't Bennings.
I anticipate this being my more controversial pick. I don't know if many people would agree with me just based on this photo alone. This should be one of the higher ranking monsters, but you have to remember that the Thing is a shapeshifter, so he could hypothetically become anything you want. And if that wasn't tantalizing enough, the reason I chose him over another shapeshifter was he has shown that he is particularly good at imitating human matter. Now, what I am proposing is that the Thing could become a mirror image of yourself. Just imagine the possibilities. And while I do admit maybe not many people would be necessarily into that, I understand, and that is why I choose to put him at A, finishing off the tier list and closing it up. Do you agree with my picks? Do you disagree with my picks? Do you agree with the rankings? Do you have any monsters of your own that maybe you think deserve to be on the list? Why don't you leave a comment down below, because I need attention. I need attention. And once again, thank you for watching.
This is the monster wall. It was a billboard flaw. Bring a bucket and a mop. This is the monster